The Note series from Xiaomi is the most hyped one that the smartphone manufacturer ships for its Indian buyers, and on those lines, the Redmi Note 8 Pro comes with many upgrades over its predecessor, the Redmi Note 7 Pro. The Note 8 Pro is the first smartphone in India to ship with the MediaTek Helio G90T chipset, up to 8 GB of RAM and a 4000 mAh battery to accompany lengthy gaming sessions. Also, it is the first smartphone from Xiaomi to pack 64 megapixel rear-facing camera, taking on the Realme XT. I have been using the Redmi Note 8 Pro for nearly 2 weeks and thoroughly impressed with the phone. So, if you are deciding to buy the Redmi Note 8 Pro and you can't be sure, then watch this video to know more about the smartphone in detail. When it comes to the design, the Redmi Note 8 Pro gets some serious upgrades and definitely differs from the Redmi Note 7 Pro. The change in design follows the trend which the Redmi 8 series follows, and hence we get to see the water drop notch on the Note 8 Pro. There is also a bigger screen on the smartphone which measures 6.53 inches as compared to the smaller 6.3 inch we get on the Note 7 Pro. The bottom chin on this phone has also been trimmed down, and this is because of the new display driver which Xiaomi used on the smartphone. The power button and the volume rockers are situated on the right side of the phone, and on the left side we find a single nano SIM card slot and another slot for secondary nano SIM card and a micro SD card slot. It is worth noting that the Chinese version of the Note 8 Pro does not come with a dedicated micro SD card slot, so clearly Xiaomi has tweaked the device for the Indian market. For display protection, the Redmi Note 8 Pro comes with Corning Gorilla Glass 5, and on the rear side as well it is protected by the Gorilla Glass 5 technology itself. Moving on to the display, the Note 8 Pro features a 6.53-inch screen with a Full HD Plus resolution. The screen renders vivid colors and the brightness is sufficient enough to make the screen legible even under bright sunlight. The phone also extends HDR support, so you be sure of true colors when needed. As we have mentioned earlier, the Note 8 Pro has a Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protection on the front. Before we jump into the performance section, I would like to tell one thing. The Redmi Note 8 Pro is a performance champion in this segment. The phone packs the MediaTek Helio G90T chipset which has been specially made for gaming. The processor is a competitor to the Snapdragon 730G chipset, which is also a gaming centered chip we found on the likes of Samsung Galaxy A80 and the Oppo Reno 2 smartphones. The octa-core Helio G90 chipset utilizes 2 ARM Cortex-A76 cores clocked at 2.05 GHz and 6 efficiency Cortex-A55 cores clocked at 2.0 GHz. For graphics, it packs the ARM Mali G76 MC4 integrated GPU clocked at 800 mHz. As for the day-to-day performance, the Redmi Note 8 Pro surely lives up to the expectations. The 8GB of RAM in our review unit ensured that there is no lag while you are firing applications back to back even with all the runnings in the background. Since the Note 8 Pro packs a gaming processor, it is also essential to test the phone with some games as well. While running the most popular phone that the users are going to play on this smartphone, PUBG Mobile, we saw a drop of about 12% on stretching the game for about 30 minutes. The settings during this play were high for the frame rate and graphics were at HD. There was a little heat on the rear panel as we finished the game, but nothing major though. On further bumping of the setting to HDR and ultra frame rate, the heating was more noticeable. And the battery life has a hit due to this. On the software side of things, the Redmi Note 8 Pro runs the Android 9 Pie based MIUI 10 out of the box. And if you are interested in knowing, then yes, the phone comes with in-system ads and some pre-installed apps which can be uninstalled, thankfully. The Note 8 Pro will receive MIUI 11 update at the tail end of December 2019, which may sound not so impressive for many as the already launched Xiaomi phones like the Redmi K20, K20 Pro, Redmi Note 7 Pro and so on have received the update already. As for the battery life on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, the device fares well owing to its 4500 mAh battery, which is ample to last you for a full day of usage, and it also comes with an 18-watt charger which gets the phone to 62% in an hour. The overall battery life on the Note 8 Pro isn't that impressive considering the previous Redmi Note devices. The average screen on time offered by the smartphone is less than 5.5 hours, which is below par considering the whopping 8 and even 9 hours of SOT offered by the Redmi Note 7 Pro, Note 6 Pro and even the Redmi Note 5 Pro smartphones. As for the optics, the Redmi Note 8 Pro surely packs some noteworthy sensors. The most important of these being the 64 megapixel primary sensor, which is a Samsung ISOCELL GW1 sensor launched earlier this year. The new sensor from Samsung offers a 0.8 micron size and it can shoot high resolution 16 megapixel images in the low light environments and can provide you access to 64 megapixel images at the bright light conditions. Paired up with sensor is an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter with an f2.2 aperture and 120-degree field of view. There is also a 2 megapixel micro camera as well. Lastly, for the depth of field shots, there is also a 2 megapixel sensor. On the front side, the Redmi Note 8 Pro comes with a 20 megapixel selfie sensor, which is an upgrade to the 13 megapixel sensor we saw on the Redmi Note 7 Pro. When the Redmi Note 8 Pro snaps pictures using the primary sensors, there is ample detail in the images and the HDR inevitably gets the exposure right when it is well lit setting. The HDR turns on automatically when there is enough light, but you have to toggle the HDR setting manually. The wide-angle lens also snaps great pictures, but the details are not as fine-tuned as in the case of the 64 megapixel primary sensor. In low light as well, the primary sensor was able to capture good shots and the focus was fast. The night mode in the camera also functions well to snap brighter images, but you will have to keep the phone stable to capture a good enough shot. The macro camera snaps good pictures up close, but the details are not appreciable because of the 2 megapixel sensor on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. However, it is one of the best implementation of macro cameras we have seen on any smartphone till date. Coming to the conclusion, the Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro is surely an offering which will see a lot of interest from the consumer. The gaming process surely ramps up the performance, although it is little harsh on the battery side. But with a 64 megapixel sensor and attractive pricing, the Redmi Note 8 Pro becomes a worthy upgrade even for the Redmi Note 7 Pro users. It also undercuts the Realme XT in terms of pricing and gives it a tough competition in the under Rs 15,000 segment. As for the pricing, the Redmi Note 8 Pro's entry-level variant comes with 6GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage and bears a price tag of Rs 14,999. Another variant with 6GB of RAM and 128GB storage costs Rs 15,999, and lastly, we have the 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage model priced at Rs 18,999 from the company. However, the only drawback with the phone is the flash sales. With smartphones like the Realme XT already available for purchase via open sale, it becomes very tough for the consumers to purchase the Redmi Note 8 Pro in flash sales. That's it for this review, guys. Hope you have liked this video. If you have liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below and also hit the notification icon to get notified every time we upload a new video. This is Chakri signing off.